Okay, right here I'm set up to mount this model onto the sprue base so that we can take it over and pour the investment in it. I'm using a cheap soldering iron to melt my wax because I don't have a wax pen quite yet. And then here's the size flask that I'm using for that. It gives it plenty of room around the outside. Set this camera down, hopefully, to where you can see what's going on. Right here, what I'll do is I'll melt the wax just a little bit. And put it on to the back. I'll set that off to the side and let it cool down just a little. Then I'll come back and melt the top of this just a little. You can see my iron's a little too hot, so that melts real fast. Come back here and trim this down. Again, hit this just a little bit to melt the wax. Hit the bottom just a little bit. Sit on and hold it. And then let that cool for just a sec. We want to make sure that up and down, it's good. We'll take and place this on here. And we're good. Okay, to start out with, over here, we've got our weighed investment in our weighed water. We got the model that we're going to come in and cast here a little bit later. We're using a simple household mixer. And over here, we've got a vacuum and a vacuum chamber. What we're going to do first is we're going to mix up the investment, and then we're going to pour it into the model. And then we'll just set it up on the top of the kiln and let it rest for a little bit. Go ahead. With the investment material that we're using, we've got a limited work time. So we got to go through and mix it up pretty good. The first little bit, we're just getting it all wet so that it'll mix better once we get it into the mixing machine. Not a lot to see there, but we'll get over here anyway. Now we're going to take the investment, since we just put a bunch of air bubbles in it, put it down in this vacuum pot right here. Place the lid on top, make sure that it's nice and centered. We'll double reel check quick to make sure that the thing's closed. We'll flip on the vacuum. Give it a half a sec or so. See the pressure starting to build. Not sure how well you'll be able to see the bubbles in here. form on the top. Our vacuum is a little underpowered to do this quickly, but it works for now. Should start to see the bubbles popping a lot like they do on your pancakes. At this point we'll take it and shake it a little bit, help the bubbles come up. You see how that just populated on the top like that? Shake these out. Now we'll take and release pressure. And one thing you want to be careful about is to put your model on an edge, because you don't want to actually get the investment poured on top of your model. Let it run down the edge. And we'll take it right up to the brim. Place back in here again. Center, shut the vacuum chamber again. Wait for it to build pressure. If we come up to the top, you should be able to see a little bitty air bubble popping. This is actually because the model that we're using is 3D printed and it's hollow on the inside right now. And part of the model, air is being vacuumed out. In cases where you don't want any of your model to collapse on you, it's a good idea to print a little thicker on your shells. This actually ends up giving us a little bit of a interesting effect on the back side. We'll shake it again. And that's to get the stuff, the air bubbles out. And we'll break the pressure on it. Shut our vacuum off. And then once we're done, we want to make sure that we've got it filled all the way to the top. And we do. Now we'll take this and just set it up here. And for the investment that we're using, it needs about 2 hours rest for green curing. And then we'll come back. All right, what we're gonna do now we're going to take the items out of the kiln over there, bring them over and set them on this vacuum table. Bring it up, bring it down to pressure, get it going and everything. Then I'll reach into here, pull out the crucible, pour the metal into it, place the crucible back inside, and then we'll let it cool down a little bit, stay under pressure, and then we'll set it off to the side. So let me go ahead and come over here and I'll get our vacuum closed off, turned on. Make sure our valves are open. We want to make sure that we've got a little bit of that going. As the pressure drops in there, I'll come over here. Look into the kiln. Place that here. Apply just a slight amount of downward pressure. Open up the suction or the valve. We'll see that we maintain pressure, so that's under pressure right now. Take these pliers, put the lid open. Pull that out. Pour into there. That up, and like I said, we'll let that sit under pressure for a little bit. I'm not sure if you can tell off the camera or not. I'll put a shadow on here and you can see that's still glowing pretty cherry red.